Hey, so my plan for this evening is to try and get some statistics showing up on here. Now, we don't actually have statistics to show yet, but we can generate random numbers to start with. And I want to try and use this React trend component to show the statistics. As usual, I have no real idea what I'm doing, so this may or may not go well. So I'm just going to start up a new console window so I can actually install things while serving the website. So cd dev projects, Crispin source, Crispin.rest. I also had a realization the other day that the statistics and the way that I've implemented them at the moment is going to actually be affected every time this page refreshes. That's going to count as a read of every statistic, and we don't want that. So my vague thought is to use the user ID property that comes from every query to the API, and just generate a GUID for the website and say that all queries on the website will have this GUID. If this GUID is present, we don't log a statistic event because, yeah, or something. I'm not quite sure, because there's the likelihood of you wanting to query to display things without actually saying this counts as querying the toggle state. So I'm not quite sure about that yet. So let's start off by installing this thing. Okay, we'll take all of it. See, copied, npm install, save. And while that downloads half the internet, we shall open up our toggle. Let's make that a bit smaller. Oh, apparently you can set breakpoints. And what I want is to put this in line with the description here. So we've got this. I want to put the graph here. And then, yeah, probably just in line with the heading. So as we want to stick it in line with the heading, I think what we need to do for that is import col. Do I need to start a row? I might need a row as well, not sure. From React bootstrap. So what we'll do here is stick a col component. There we go. I found an extension to do autocomplete for me, so quite happy about that. Is this going to give me IntelliType? I can't remember what the... I'll just do that. I think I do. Let's say we'll do 6 and 6, I think. So yes, I think I need a row for this. And then inside that we put a column. And inside that we put the heading. And then we also do another column. And we'll make this small equal to 6. And I'll just write the word hello there. I've also fixed prettier to work as well, so that actually runs. Now we've ended up with this. Now I'd like that to be the same height as that. I don't know how to achieve that. Let's see if there's a nice simple way. Boot strap same height. Oh, look at that, half the world Googles this. How can I make bootstrap columns all the same height? That seems reasonable. Using the CSS flexbox. Oh well, let's ignore that for now because we might end up just using a fixed height for this thing anyway. Oh, pardon me. Alright, so that's saved. So how do we put one of these into the page? Import trend from React trend, that seems reasonable. You might notice that I'm not inserting this at the bottom of my list of imports. I tend to keep imports from packages above imports from files for no apparent reason. I just always have done. And then a trend with some fixed numbers. That'll do for now. Just want to show the thing to show up to start with. Oh, that's pretty much what I'm after. Want a bit of smoothing to it, perhaps, and a nice color, and maybe slightly smaller. Let's see what we can do to configure it. Data, auto draw. Oh, so you can animate stuff. That's nice. Right. By default, ensures a 1:4 aspect ratio with the width. I'm not setting a width, but I do want to set a height. But I don't know what height I want to set even. So let's cheat and say the height of this thing. Right, the height of the element is 26. It's then got 30 extra margin on it. So 56. Well, let's try that. That's better. Yeah, that'll do. Yeah, good. Happy with that. Right, now, colouring. Ooh, smooth. Let's make it smooth. Let's see what that does. Smooth equals 3. Yeah, maybe. Lovely. By default, all properties not recommended. Inherits the properties. No. Ow. I'm going to override it. That means among you can use strokes. Are those actual embeds of it, or those images? Those images. React trend playground. That's pretty. That's kind of what we're after. Just something plain. Maybe 2 colours. Line template. And what's the difference between square and dot? I'm not sure. If we refresh that. Yeah. Let's do that. No, let's do that. That'll do. Yeah, that's what I'll have. So you can specify it just like that. Cool. gradient purple to violet. Not the colours we'll actually use, but do that. Let's put that. Let's put that at the beginning. Maybe we do want the lines a bit thicker. That might be too much. I'm not sure what the current stroke width is. Yeah, 2 will do. Right, now what we're going to do though is, I think, put this in its own component, because I might end up wanting to display this elsewhere. Is that worth doing yet? Because we don't have real data. Oh yeah. Let's leave it for now. // You're telling me there's no changes to any JS files? That seems unlikely. Oh, feels like I've got a frog stuck in my throat. Yep, good. Web UI and trend graph to toggle with made hard-coded data. Now I've got a vague thought about the data for this, in that what I shall do is make an endpoint called something like stats, and that will return a JSON object or a JSON array. No, let's do an object, I think. We'll return an object of like toggle ID 1, and then I don't know, last query, last state changed, history. I'm not quite sure what that graph actually shows, to be honest. I know I wanted a graph, but I can't remember what I was trying to show. Querying over time, I guess. But query history should be an array of something. Number of times queried per time span, maybe. Then maybe toggle history, which might well need to be something like pairs, so you'd have a date and on followed by a date and off, maybe. But yeah, so the idea would be to have an endpoint that looks something like that, and then we'd return multiple things. And then in our dashboard code, here where we're saying list all toggles, we'd do a second call to say list all statistics, and then pass the relevant statistic in to each toggle as we populate them on screen. But we haven't got that yet, so, and that would actually require me to write the statistics aggregation bit of code as well. So instead what I'm going to do is write something to create a new toggle, because that seems like a useful thing to do. Yeah. No idea really how to get started with that. You still use React forms? Is that the thing to use? React forms. Yes. Not really doing any of those. Do I need any of this? Just to get away with using inputs. I remember there's a React forms library, but I can't really remember what it does, or what the point of it was. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that was the thing, React forms. Yes, that's nice. What's that? Oh, I don't see this. Oh, on the website. What? That looks a bit over the top for what I'm doing, to be honest. Yeah, I think we'll just use a normal form. I do want it to be a modal though, but I do vaguely recall that it's easier to do things as a separate component. I don't know. New folder. Create. Oh, maybe. And new file in that, index.js. I also managed to set up my editor config so it automatically realizes that I want 2 spaces rather than 4 from this. So the first thing I'm going to do is import React. And I think I'm going to want a component because I can never remember how I like doing this. I think I want a component that exposes a link on the button. And then when you click that, toggles the form, and so that component needs to actually be in a component rather than one of the status functions because it needs to toggle the display, I think. Unless React Bootstrap has something nice for modals, which it might well do. Modal. Ah, modals. That's basically what we're after. Class, yeah. Yeah, so we need to be at a control state. So yeah, we do want to inherit a class. So class create toggle activator, perhaps, because I'll probably put the modal somewhere else. No, let's call it that. Extends component, which I can't spell or type. Initial state, so that's a door. This state equals show modal false. And we shall use an A, I think, to start with. Create ref equals. I can't remember if that's a good thing to do or not. On click equals toggle modal const toggle modal equals e arrow thing e dot prevent default. We don't want the link to actually go or navigate anywhere. We've got 2 methods, one to close and one to open. the state in there, we put the on hide in there, that makes sense so far. We have a close, but yeah. On click, we call open. Yeah, okay. So we'll do const open equals nothing. This dot set state show modal true, and then we have const close equals nothing. This dot set state show modal false. Maybe. Right, so we have that which toggles our modal. And then we actually want the modal somewhere. Doesn't seem right to put it inside this. And we don't really want div as such. Maybe a span will do. I better import modal as well. Import modal. Do I need anything else? No, there are also properties from React. Strap. Now, this needs some properties to it. Show equals this dot state dot show modal. On hide equals this equals close. Now we have a header with a close button. And a modal body, which will have our super awesome form in it. Oh, alt dot, okay. And then I think it's probably a modal footer, yeah, modal footer. And that can have a button with close. And we want a button with create. Which is not going to do anything yet. Now, somewhere on here we can set, I think it's BS primary. Buttons. I'm sure it was something like BS primary. BS style equals primary. I was close. Right, that shouldn't have done anything because we've not included it anywhere. Probably want to export it. That would probably be helpful. Export default. I can't remember what it was even called. Create toggle. Create toggle. Because at some point we'll need to hook up some validation to this, like whether the name's already in use or that kind of thing. What now? Probably should attach the menu. Layout index. There. Ugh. So we want a list item. We don't want a nav link. We just want our component. Let's import create toggle from Is that right? Or is it dot dot up? Yeah. And then we'll just put that in there. Bad things, bad things. Oh, can't call that like that. We need a super in here, I think. Yeah, something like that. It'd probably help if we put some. No, I have put something in there. Where's my link? Why isn't it showing up? What's that? I can go away. No, go away. Return the spam with an href in it. Put it in there. Well, it seems like it should show up. But it isn't. Oh, it's still red there. Maybe I need to refresh. Ah, errors. Hang on a sec. I need to reply. It's not how you spell. My typing is just as bad on a phone as it is on a keyboard, by the way. So you're not really missing out on anything. Right. Good, that's it sorted. Right, sorry about that. Button is not defined. No, it isn't, because I haven't imported it from anywhere. Because I'm an idiot. Button. Less red? Less red. There we go. We now even have a create toggle link. That'll have to move somewhere. Probably above this, maybe? I don't know. And our form even shows up. Look at that. And disappears. And you can even click create and nothing useful will happen. Good. So before I break anything else, let's commit that. Web UI add stubs modal creating toggles. Right. Now let's ignore the layout of that for now and do the fun things with this modal. So rather than put something in here, what we'll do is we'll put another component in here. It's going to be our create toggle form. And the reason we're doing that is because I foresee wanting to inline this elsewhere later. And I don't like having huge components. And this is a component that's actually a component class rather than one of the Lambda style components. And I like having Lambda style components. So I'm going to make Lambda style components. And you can't stop me. So we'll do that, and we'll lowercase it because I feel like it. Import React from React, and this time we can just do const form. It's actually call it the proper thing, equals callback thing. And our create toggle form doesn't actually have any content to it yet, so we'll just export. Let's put a blasted div in there. Div. I am a form of forms. Export defaults create toggle form. Good, and now we can import it up here. Import create toggle form from create toggle form. Good. I see red, so I'm going to refresh. Don't mind red. Good, that still works. So let's figure out what we actually want to put into the form and what syntax it needs to actually take. Let's not use that because it looks complicated. I'm doing anything but complicated, really. Blah, 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 blah. We need a label and an input. Label, name. Okay, like that. Let's just copy that one now. Delete that and just do that, that. Apparently it's happy with the formatting, which is weird. I'm not. Okay, that's good formatting, apparently. Label, name, yeah. Great. We're already creating a toggle, so there's no point calling it toggle name, that's fine. Now let's have another one of those for description. Description. Do I have any other properties when creating a toggle? I don't think so. Create toggle handler. No, that's going to come from the API. Name, description. Okay. No, so we just need name and description. Yeah, maybe. Let's see what happens in here. Well, I suppose, yeah, technically. Forms. That's more like it, that's what we want. Oh, it's got validation based on string length. We don't actually care about string length, so blah, 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 blah. We want a form group, I guess. And a control label and a form control. We might want feedback before we implement validation. Oh, is that the feedback? I guess. And that's the help block. I'd probably want more textual feedback than that, but you know, so we can tell them off for not using a toggle name that's already existent. But I'm going to ignore that for now. So it's a form group we're after. Import form group from React boot and a control label and a form control. And what do we do with these? We keep our form element. I'm just going to delete all that because it's not really very interesting. Form group. So we keep our form. We put a group inside it, which has a control label. Name, I guess. And a form control, which is going to have type of text a value, which is going to be nothing. So I'm not going to bother specifying a placeholder. My toggle. Still haven't figured out whether these toggles should be URL safe names or not. Probably should figure that out sooner rather than later. And as we're doing the same thing, hang on, what are you complaining about? Is it that, or does it mean no? That is right. Just spell checker rather than useful things, you know, where React tells you for doing class rather than class name, that kind of thing. Name description. Do we specify an ID somewhere? I feel we should have an ID. We do have an ID. Uses control ID from form group if not explicitly specified. Should I take it from the form group then? Maybe. Yeah, okay, that kind of makes sense. Toggle name. Let's do the same for this. Toggle description. Yeah. Refresh all the things. Yeah, that's basically what I'm after. I was thinking about applying column widths and things to make these wider and smaller, but to be honest, don't really need it for a 2 control form. Some short description of the toggle. Now, hot module reloading. Oops. Description. Why can I not spell? Oh, who needs to spell? Placeholder. That's what I meant to change. Now, if I save this, will hot module reload leave the dialog open, or will it shut it again? Oh well, slightly too much to hope for, I suppose. Oh, so we can do that, and we can click create, which does nothing. So we're going to take in a couple of functions here. We're going to have an x. Are we? Because you hit OK on the form outside. At which point do you need to save the content of that? And I think what we can do here, say ref, assuming this is still a thing. I don't know. Form. Say toggle form equals form. And we do outside here, we do let toggle form. That's valid. And then, no, that's not going to work. I'm going to have to make that a proper component then. I was thinking of adding a method to this to get content, but that doesn't seem like a very Reacty way of doing it. What I want is that when I click accept here, I want it to do something in here. And I know how to do it the other way around. You pass a function in as an argument, and then you can invoke that when you want something to happen. Maybe we should just put the form in here for now. Yeah, why not? Ugh. Which means we don't need that. And we don't need that. Oh, okay. Hang on a sec. Good. Right. What was I doing? Deleting stuff, yes. And we'll probably need to import that lot. Can you do that? Can you import twice from the same component in? I assume we can. Find out in a minute. Don't save that. Delete the right thing. That would probably help. Stop. Oh, god damn it. I'm having fun. I'm having fun. I'm enjoying web development. Actually, I do somewhat prefer web development like this to old WinForms. WinForms are fine, but they have their own issues. And at least everything's customizable, even if you do end up just swearing about CSS for days. Right, so now we have a form. We're going to want one of these to accept it and create the thing, and one of them to do something else. Now you can get hold, I think, of the value of the form somehow. I think there's a callback available. You do something in here, so rather than handle change. Well, we could set it into the state. That seems a bit over the top. So I'm debating whether I want to, on change of each of these controls, write them into the state of this component. And then when we click accept, we can run a thing or read the state and do something. Or when you click accept, I can read the state of the control at that time, because I'm not doing any validation yet, but I will be later, but as it's doing that later and not now. Yes, so the get validation doesn't have a parameter of what it's doing, so you do get validation and that has to read it from the state. Alright, let's just stuff it in the state for now. Do that. We have handle change. What does handle change do? Perhaps e.target.value. That seems like a long way of writing that. Can I do this instead? E, callbacky thing. And what is this? This is a description. And then we can just put the same thing in here. And I suppose we should have an initial state of this now. So let's have name. No, let's not give it any name to start with. Description can be blank as well. And I suppose this means that I should be using the value of the state now. This. Wow, that's an interesting spelling of the word this. Got 2 out of 4 letters, right? This dot state dot name. Same again for this. So use the description. Right, so when the value changes, write to the state, use the... Right, I think this will work. It also might just lock the values in place so you can't ever change them. You know what, I'm going to get the React DevTools. I'm sure there used to be a link to them when you open these things. More tools. React DevTools. Now, is that an official one, or is that one trying to steal my stuff? Offered by Facebook. It is actually a link to Facebook. Only 800,000 downloads, though. So what I'd rather do is go to the GitHub page, which does appear to be legitimate, and click that instead. And now hopefully I'm at the right one. Right. I want the Redux DevTools as well, because they are very useful. Redux DevTools. And again, because I still don't quite trust this, I'm going to go here. 6 months ago. Really? Not very long ago. Here it is. 2 months ago. Oh, maybe there is another. Yeah, it'll do. Chrome Web Store. And add to Chrome. Yes. Oh, my head. So I did this class at the gym this evening called Grit Strength, which I like a lot. It's only 30 minutes long. How hard can it be? The answer to that is really hard. And I always put far too much weight on the bar because I look at the bar and go, ah, this is what I can lift up when I'm not running around like an idiot for 30 minutes. And yeah, and as a consequence of that, I have a slight hangover headache from dehydration and all of my limbs hurt. And my lungs feel like they're burning a bit still. But you know, no pain, no gain. Right, how do I make the DevTool show? Do you have to restart Chrome for that? I think you might have to restart Chrome. Too used to things like VS Code and Atom just installing extensions automatically. I have to wait around and restart things. How old school is that? There we go. Now, can I move? I don't use these. Can you reorder what's on this thing? Shortcuts. I don't know what that means. Oh, go away. Well, you can drag them, but only when they're all visible. How wide do I need to make this? On the plus side, I've just proved my layout doesn't entirely break when you make it smaller. Let's put that there and that there, because that's usually what I use. Probably use network more than sources as well. Right, I can now come back to that. Right, the reason we want this is because you can click on things and then you actually get to see the state inside components, which is really useful. So I'm going to do this, and then we can point the targety thing at this, not that. And we look up until we find our particular form, which is weird because it's a modal. There's the actual form. Yes, and it's a portal because the actual form is included at the bottom of the page down here. Right, now let's try and find the one with the thing with the state on it. Where is my state? Probably on this actually. Yeah, there you are. That's the state. So that can go away. Right, so when we change this, we should see that update. Lovely. Oh, that was a nice little sidetrack. So we've got this create button and a close button. So let's commit this first. So I'm bound to break things in there. Web UI. Add thing for creating models. Right. So at the moment we're calling close, but that's boring. Probably want to actually call save. So what I'm going to do is rename these. This is going to be cancel, and this is going to be save. And we're going to do the same thing up here on hide. Yeah. I think this fires anyway, but okay. So cancel doesn't need to do anything. Open can stay the same. Oh, hell. Am I here? Am I here? I think I'm here. Oh god, that's apparent. That means they'll be phoning me in about 4 seconds because I haven't answered quick enough. Yes. Streaming. Good, that'll shut them up. I've told them what streaming means, and I think they've taken that to mean I'll call them later. And the UK is 2 hours behind Finland, so it's 8 o'clock there, so I've got a while to call. 8:30 even. 8:30? 7:30. I can tell the time, leave me alone. Right, so we've got our cancel. So we've got open, and now we want save. Okay, maybe another time. Good, good. I'll have to call them in a minute. In fact, I'll just tell them. I'll probably stream for another half an hour or so. Right, good, that's that dealt with. Right, so when you call save, we don't want to close necessarily. So, I mean, ideally we're going to call cancel effectively. That's what maybe calling that cancel is wrong. Let's call it close. So when you save a modal dialog, you don't want to close it straight away. First of all, you want to validate. Then you want to trigger some action that actually calls the API. And then you want to close. Because this action is not only going to call the API, but we're also going to cheat and we're going to insert the toggle that they've created straight into the state, so that it looks like it's created straight away, which makes our application look a bit more responsive. And then when the action resolves, like the API comes back as okay, we can then say, good, it's done, and update the real state. The other option which we've got, which might be better for this actually, is when you trigger the action to create, we give it a callback and say on success call close, and on fail make red, and do something with the form. Show a message to say this failed because reasons. Not that we have any validation, because the API will currently let you just create toggles with the same name repeatedly. And I think that will cause bad things to happen. So, at the moment, we're just going to cheat and pull close. And yeah, so if we look at our other thing here, we've got actions, producers, and then tests for them as well. So we're going to have an action here, which is going to submit to the API, which I'm not sure if I can use this fetch thing for. Grab the response, dispatch, receive all toggles, data. And we dispatch a request all toggles, and that'll have our callback in it. Yeah. Let's just copy that because I don't want to keep flicking back and forth between things. So actions.js. So I know that this fetch, because I was looking at it earlier, is an instance of npm isomorphic fetch, which means that when we call it, what we're actually getting is an instance of node fetch, because when it's running on the node side of things, you get an instance of node fetch, and when it's otherwise, you get something that wraps magic, maybe. Something like that. But how do you call APIs with it? Oh, I want to do posts. Usage, yes. Is it literally just for fetching? Node isomorphic fetch post. Oh, you can actually do it. I was half expecting this issue to be closed with, this is called fetch, not post. Download 4 billion other dependencies to do what you're after. Well, anyway, that's how we do it. So, fetch task, fetch toggles, then do JSON, blah, 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 blah. So, we're actually going to hit that URL, that is correct. We'll do it here, we'll just say options, because that's a good name. Not sure why I declare that fetch task with let. It's a task, it should be able to just do const. Oh well. Const options equals. Now, what do we do here? We want a method, which is post, and a body, which is. Now, we're not doing a form, we're sending a raw request. So I think what we want is headers, content type, application JSON. I don't think I want any other headers. I mean, at some point we will put in our magical header, which will let things know that it's the API and not to do certain things like log statistics. But for now, ignore. Body. JSON.stringify, maybe. And then just have name, description, cast in there. Name, description. Is there anything telling how to do? Wow, why are there so many unhappy people with their response? Oh. Ugh. I should probably actually just do this post, Jason. Right, so that's basically what I've just written. Sorry, double checking the server side. Oh, good. So apparently this is the right thing to do. Good. I'm not completely ballsing things up. Not yet, anyway. There's time. So we're going to post to toggles. Do we still use that same syntax? Yes. Then we receive 201 created back, which has a URL which we're going to ignore, I think. Yeah. Now, so we're not going to put any data into anything. And we're not actually getting a JSON body back. Which means we don't need to do that because we're not doing anything with it. And the type is not receive all toggles, it's... Now, I've called it receive all toggles, but I'm not convinced that's the right name. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have a look at one of my other projects, which doesn't use that, but has quite a lot of data being sent left and right. This is not a public source. Channels, message actions. There we are. Yeah, you see, I name them that, and then I have request, success, and failure, and sent, and I think I prefer that. I will come back and rename these in a while. Different commit, it's not what we're currently looking at. So this is going to be create toggle request. No. That's success. How you spell success? Yes. Can you tell English is my first language? Dispatch. Request. Now I suppose in here we should technically check if it's successful or failure. And then dispatch the right kind of thing. But I can't be bothered at the moment. We'll come back to that. I want to add it there, blah, blah, blah. It's probably not a good idea to call it list all toggles because that's not what it's doing. It's called create toggle. Why isn't that one all on one line? That can't be any more characters, can it? Oh, okay. Am I in the right project? Confusing myself now. I'll just close that before I get really confused. Yeah. So we've now got this create toggle thing. Now we want to hook it up to, not that, to this. And that would require me to remember how to hook things up. So let's have a look at this. Map state to prop, state toggles. We don't have any state to map. We only have a dispatch to match, which does the listing. Yes, good. I remember that. So import create toggle from create toggle. No, from actions. Actions. Const map dispatch to props, and you get it just dispatch for that. Yes. And we have create. Oh no, we don't. We have return that. Create toggle is a callback which takes in a name and a description. technically needs the close event as well, but yeah, one step at a time. And that on call calls dispatch create toggle name description. Now we need connect, which is import there. Import connect from React Redux. No, React Redux. Yeah. And then down here we say, oh, it would help if I hit the right keys. Export connect. I think I can do the dispatch straight there. No, null, map, dispatched props, and that, then that. Possibly. See how many errors we get. Apparently none. How much do you want to bet this is going to blow up or not work? Quite high, because I don't think I'm actually calling the thing. I'm not calling the thing. So we're not going to do any validation because that's boring. Props dot create toggle, and we use state. Let's do const state equals this dot state. State dot name state dot description. Yeah, that should work, I think. You know what? I can't. Let's just do this. No, not that. Do that and that. Delete that. Format things. Come on. Oh, okay, 72 colors. Right, fine. See if I can. 4. Oh, we got a 201 back from it. So if we refresh. We now have our fourth one. Nice. I mean, we're not. I mean, we need to handle this. We need to write reducers for this so we can take the request back. And come to think about it, now might be a good idea to change the API slightly. So not only do we give the 201 created back, we might actually want to give the JSON body back as if the toggle had been queried itself, so that we can insert it straight into the state of the application. So we don't have to make another call straight afterwards. But one step at a time. Right. Let's web UI. Create toggles. Let's just read. let's do this with no validation. Amend. Shouldn't do amend often, but sometimes I do. Right, so we have a request, we have a success. So on success, we want to do what? We want to actually close the form. I don't know if this is a good idea or not. I'm suspecting not, but I'm going to do it anyway. Callback, close. So we're going to add a callback to that, which means we need a callback up here. Like that. Yep. Interesting wrapping right there. Now that we've got that, we get rid of that before I get confused. Now we've got descriptions here, we can now do close form. Also pass that in here and here. And now when we call this create toggle, we're also going to pass it a close link. I really wish it would wrap the form slightly, but as it's not, I will. And we no longer close the form then. Alright, see if I can. Yeah. Now, theoretically, when we run this, it shouldn't close the form because nothing is calling that callback yet. Yep, so we get a successful 201 created here, but the form doesn't close because nothing called that callback. So we now want to add a reducer that does that. So let's do a new file, reducers.js. And as I can't remember the format of the reducer, because I have a terrible memory. Right. Export default state equals. What is my default state? I don't actually know, or care for that matter in this case. Actually. So I'm not actually going to modify state with this, I'm going to call a callback, which doesn't seem quite right. In fact, it seems so not right that I'm not going to do it. I thought of another way to do it. Let's delete that. Move to the recycle bin, which won't work because I don't have a recycle bin. That can go away. So why bother dispatching it here? I mean, I've got a then, which is going to let me do things. Let's take that, do that, format, or don't, whatever. I'm going to make that const because I feel like it should be. It's a few more letters, so it might make the line wrap. No. And rather than calling the callback like that, we're going to let that dispatch, and then we're going to just call those four. Simples. So now we do sixth, and we would do if I could spell sixth. Closing. That's a question. Voila. 201 created, and it closed the form. And what we'll then do is have reducer which actually deals with this. But we need to combine the reducers in a magical way, because I've now got two separate reducers which are both operating on the same area of the state tree, which I don't think you're supposed to do, but I don't know how to solve off the top of my head. And as my headache is getting worse, I'm going to diff these, commit them, and then stop streaming. Okay, cm web UI, close form successful API call. We'll probably change the form to have a little whirling wheel or spinny indicator of winning while it's waiting for what should be instant postback. But you know, you might as well put that in there because you know maybe someone is hosting the UI somewhere else or reasons, network lags, that kind of thing. You might as well handle these things so that if a user does have a poor connection between the API and the web UI, then they get a better experience rather than just clicking the button and nothing happening and them going, oh, maybe it hasn't worked, clicking the button and getting an error because the second one then fails because of the validation, that kind of thing. Yeah, so code up is up for this on GitHub as always. So that's github.com/ponderdom/Crispin. If you've got any questions or you want to just talk development or take the mick out of my version of web development, you're more than welcome to. I'll send me a message on Twitter. I'm at Ponderdom on there as well. And I will probably see you tomorrow, I guess. Is it Tuesday tomorrow? Or is it Wednesday tomorrow? What day is it today? Monday. Yeah, Tuesday. yeah, probably see you tomorrow, I guess. Yeah, thanks for watching, and have a good rest of your evening.